are so close to being such a good fighter. It's like back to back. He's like, I wish I was better in a fight. All I have is this lame throwing talent. So, Alex Verus, books 1, 2, and 3, Fated, Cursed, Taken. I found these books through the urban fantasy Reddit, because pretty much whenever someone asked for recommendations, the Alex Verus series would come up. But definitely in my notes of like my list of books to read, it said like Alex versus Virus ? It's Verus. I got it now. We will start out with something that it did excel at and I keep thinking about, which is how Alex and his powers are just so wonderfully intermingled and it makes him a better character. So Alex's powers is that he can see possible futures. And you would think this would be really easy to make him overpowered, but it does keep a nice wrap on it that he doesn't have unlimited future sight and he does have to process it, and it's a pretty nice power balance, honestly. What I love is that you can kind of see every part of his character and how it relates back to the way he sees the world because of his magic. For example, Alex is kind of a cautious person. It's very deliberate, and this is because he's always deliberating, because every time before he makes an action, he goes through the thought process of, okay, what future is this action going to bring about? Is that future something that I want? And it's like all stacking up in his head. Another thing is that sometimes Alex's social skills aren't quite natural, especially with small talk. And this is because his future sight is particularly good at predicting things like small talk. So he already knows the entire conversation before it even happens. So of course it's going to feel kind of unnatural from his side. And yep. And that's the thing that comes up in these books over and over, and it's just kind of part of who Alex is. And because he's over-relying on his powers and processing nearly every decision through this future sight clairvoyance, when the future isn't immediately available to him, he gets pretty indecisive because he doesn't know what to do. He's not good at making decisions on his own without enough information, like, oh no, I can't, ah! And you can just feel him kind of freaking out because he doesn't know how to deal with the situation of not knowing the future. And then of course, because he's the one who knows all the future and what's going to happen, he's kind of a control freak sometimes, that he just wants to tell people what to do and expect them to do it because he knows best. And like, to be fair, he usually does know best, but you can definitely see that he doesn't like to delegate things, that he wants to save the day by himself, and he kind of struggles to work well with others sometimes because of that. Because he just doesn't trust other people to make as good decisions as he would make. And because his magic isn't as flashy offensive as fireballs or something, he doesn't think he's very good in a fight, and you can tell how this ties in to fights are so chaotic that he has a hard time seeing the future in them, and then he gets super indecisive and gets nervous about it, and then he thinks he's not a good fighter, even though all the evidence kind of points to the opposite, because it turns out seeing the future, even a little bit, really handy in a fight. And you can just tell that this character was so lovingly crafted that his personality is so entwined with his magic. And like, quick aside, so one of the things that Alex often repeats to the reader is like, I'm not a battle mage, I'm not good in fights, like, I don't have that kind of flashy magic. And then a few paragraphs later, he'll be saying something like, you know, I don't have that many useful skills because of my clairvoyance. I'm really good at dodging things because I know where they're going to hit me. And also I've developed this talent for throwing things incredibly precisely because he can like tell how he needs to throw it for the future that will get it exactly on target. And I'm like, Alex, baby! Throwing knives! You are so close to being such a good fighter. It's like back to back. He's like, I wish I was better in a fight. All I have is this lame throwing talent. Guess I'm just gonna throw some marbles at them. Alex, throwing knives. Okay, I'm gonna bet that by book 5, Alex has throwing knives. And if he doesn't have it by the end of book 5, I'm gonna be disappointed because this is obviously where his battle skills are going, right? Like, he's gotta think of it sometime. But as much as I enjoyed the characterization and sometimes the plot of these books, it was kind of missing some emotional, like, there wasn't a lot of emotional power in these books. And I think that's really like a lack of, inner conflict, that sweet angst drama. There's a lot of external conflict towards Alex, but he doesn't really have much internal conflict. Like, occasionally he'll ask a question like, should I help my friend? And then like, well, yeah, duh. And he comes to that conclusion very quickly. Or like, oh, should I really get involved in this? But like, he's the hero and he gets involved in things to help save the day. So yeah, duh. But even though I really know who Alex is as a person in a lot of ways, I don't feel like I really know where his heart is at, because it hasn't really been stretched and put in pain. I think the more I review books, the more I realize how much I love it when the characters are just put through the ringer. Because, like, it can be hard to read, but also it's the most interesting things to read to me. I love that character drama. And there are some interesting character-to-character conflicts and relationships in here, but still, they're like, could be taken farther. But the relationship that these books were really hinging on was between Alex and Luna. And I have a lot of thoughts on this, okay? Because I ship them pretty hard, but there are complications. Because in book 1, Alex and Luna have a little bit of a soft mentor relationship. But then there's also some romantic tension there. And personally, I don't think that mentor relationships and romantic relationships should be mixed. That's kind of icky, you know? But then in book 2, Alex starts realizing, this half-mentor relationship isn't really working. I either need to make her my full apprentice or nothing, because it's really hard to like mentor her when there's not any structure here. But then as Alex considers, should she be my full apprentice, he realizes, I'd actually want her to be my girlfriend. But I can't do both, which is a good decision, Alex. Good realization. Unfortunately, she does become his apprentice, effectively shutting down the ship. I ship them together! I did not want her to become his apprentice because obviously, once they're in an official apprentice-master relationship, they should not be together romantically. And both the characters understand this, and there isn't any romantic things going between them anymore. I guess I just hope for a future book, after their apprentice relationship has closed, that maybe they could start something romantic. But it was quite disappointing when he asked her, like, hey, you have to decide whether or not you want to be my apprentice or not. And he neglected to mention that the options were actually apprentice or girlfriend, because she might have actually picked girlfriend if she had been informed. But overall, the story got me to be invested in their relationship, which means that the story definitely succeeded over there, and I am excited to see how their relationship unfolds, and crossing fingers that they don't become romantically entangled while also being master apprentice, because no thanks, I don't like it. But my big takeaway from these books is just the faith that the series will get better. Because I know that there's a lot of love for this series out there. And from books 1, 2, and 3, I don't really get it. Like, they're okay books, and I did definitely enjoy them, and I see the potential. Just those 3 books by themselves, I'm not completely hooked. But I have the faith that this series will get better, that it will get more emotionally drama-filled, that we will get to explore these relationships and these backstories, and all the wonderful magic in these books.